Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Power Scaling. This time we're going over something very interesting, something that of course is going to be a little bit controversial, but I think overall we can generally agree on a few things. So today I'm talking about omnipotent, semi-omnipotent, just really powerful entities in various science fiction universes that I've seen. Now, I have selected a few that I actually have some feats for, some big feats. Of course, there are many theoretical feats, but for today, I've just decided to keep it to actual feats, things that these beings have actually done. So if you're actually looking at the picture that should be on the screen right now, you are seeing an Alien X from Ben 10, and to the right of that you have a Dowd from Star Trek The Next Generation, Q, also from Star Trek The Next Generation, Nagila from Star Trek The Next Generation, and some Organians in their physical form from Star Trek The Original Series. And you may notice that I've been mentioning Star Trek a lot up to now. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of those in Star Trek. Star Trek likes to play around with whatever powerful being we can put up, and then the humans have to prove themselves as worthy to some powerful beings, or they need to appease some powerful being. And that's a common plot thread in a lot of Star Trek episodes. So Star Trek ends up having a lot of these omnipotent, near omnipotent, transcendent entities that are very powerful. So let's actually move on to the spreadsheet. I know that's the moment everybody has been waiting for, and here it is, the spreadsheet. Okay, we're not actually going to be looking at this page. We're going to look at a new tab that I've created on the bottom here, Life Forms, Life Form, Origin, Greatest Feat, and Non-Feats. So that's the general format I am using right here. So the most powerful out of the ones I've listed that have actual feats that we've seen that are really powerful are the Celestial Sapiens from Ben 10, specifically the original continuity, because there is a reboot out there. And the Celestial Sapiens, the specific example from the Omnitrix is Alien X. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what Ben 10 is, it's essentially a cartoon show where there's a kid called Ben, and he has a device on his wrist called the Omnitrix, and this device allows him to turn into various life forms from other planets. And the Celestial Sapiens happens to be one of the most powerful ones. And a feat actually performed by Ben 10 himself is creating a fully formed universe after the universe got destroyed, which is a very big feat, and I don't really see that in a lot of science fiction. They generally don't tend to go that far up in power, in actually creating a universe. Now, by power, I don't mean in actual theoretical power. For example, Q could potentially do that, I think. But in actual displayed power, as in an actual episode, creating a fully formed universe. Now, the reason I emphasize that it is a fully formed universe is because it's not a big bang and there's stuff flying out. No, here's a universe with living people and everything in it. There you go. And a non-feat, by non-feats I mean things that can be considered feats in some contexts, but aren't really actually feats for various reasons. For example, destroying the multiverse, which a celestial sapien is stated by one of the show's creators to be able to destroy a multiverse in 6 thoughts. However, this is never stated in universe, and it has never been done in universe. So it is a non-feat, because as many people know, especially in the versus community, where various characters are debate about who wins against who, oftentimes authors' comments aren't always consistent with what happens. So, for example, recently, stuff relating to Dragon Ball Super, some author made a statement that is generally inconsistent with the observed capabilities of a character. So it's always good to take a grain of salt. And the primary canon is, of course, always what actually happens on screen. Depending on the context, of course. Comic books can be a different context, but for now I'm talking about what happens on screen. And then you've got Q. For those of you who aren't familiar with Q, Q is... there are many Qs, but the Q are a group of beings that in Star Trek are stated, or at least self-proclaimed, to be omnipotent. And they can travel through time, they can travel to anywhere in the universe, and they can materialize stuff out of nowhere, they can manipulate people's minds, they can share their power with others, and the realm where they live, the Q continuum, is beyond the comprehension of humans and Vulcans and the other main Star Trek species. So they are possibly more than three-dimensional. That is a possibility. And a notable feat is that one of them traveled to the beginning of the universe, and another one caused multiple well, not another one, but they had a civil war in the Q continuum, which caused multiple supernovas as a side effect of that civil war happening in regular space. There were multiple supernovas. Supernovas were occurring at a rate that was much greatly increased than the normal rate, and that was because they were having a civil war in the Q continuum. So that's interesting to note, that that is a casual side effect of the Q fighting each other. And a non-feat, the AntiTime Eruption in the episode All Good Things. It's important to note that although originally Picard may have thought that this was something that the Q had sent to eliminate humans and the Federation, it actually was Picard himself that caused the AntiTime Eruption through his actions, although it could be said that it was indirectly led to by actions of the Q. But it is important that it is not a feat of the Q themselves. However, that being said, I personally do believe that if they had wanted to do that, they definitely could have. And for those of you who do not know what the AntiTime Eruption is, it was a disruption in space-time that got larger the farther back you moved in time, and therefore destroyed the past of a civilization, which was pretty weird. The logic behind that is a little bit confusing, but it essentially prevented humans from ever coming into existence theoretically, but not actually. However, Picard and Q, they fixed that in the episode. Anyway, the Dowd, appearing once in a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode, there was a Dowd who killed a 5 times 10 to the 10th power population interstellar civilization instantaneously. He was angry because he had been living disguised as a human, and his wife got killed, and he was so angry that he destroyed the entire Husnuk civilization. He killed every single one of them, and there were, using the short form, 50 billion of them, and the long form that would be 50 milliards. I like to use both forms. Anyway, the Organians from Star Trek, they appeared in Enterprise, but this feat occurs in the original series. They stopped the entire militaries of 2 interstellar powers, and by stopping, I mean they rendered them incapable of fighting each other, specifically the TOS era Federation and Klingon Empire. So that requires some interstellar power of being able to locate all the spaceships and stop everyone from being able to fly the spaceships towards each other to fight, and also knocking out the phasers and disruptors out of the hands of the officers due to a feeling of heat that they had when holding them. So that is another big feat. It might not be as big as some of the other ones, but I thought it was worth mentioning. Anyway, I have another list of some other life forms that have limited feats, but they're not in any particular order. I haven't power scaled these. Now, that being said, when I'm talking about power scaling, I'm talking about power scaling the feats. I'm not power scaling the beings themselves, because, of course, it is very difficult to do when you're dealing with varying degrees of infinity, especially if you don't know the totality of what their power is. You don't ever see some huge level of exertion from many of these. Anyway, Nagila, appearing in one episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, he trapped the Enterprise in a non-space space. And he was unfamiliar with the concept of death, so he's generally considered to be very powerful. However, the full extent of Nagilam's power is unknown. I haven't seen a lot of the Ben 10. I've seen some of it, but I haven't seen a lot of it, so forgive me if I don't pronounce it correctly. Diagon or Diagon, I do not know, from Ben 10 is some powerful being that can mind control people, and was more powerful than Way Big, one of Ben 10's alien transformations. And Trelane's race from an episode of Star Trek: The Original Series exhibited a lot of power, the ability to materialize things and to force people to do things. The prophets, or the power wraiths from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, who do not have a linear existence, as in their existence is not linear in time, so time travel is possible for them, and they also are capable of changing around the genes of beings that enter the Celestial Temple or the Wormhole. They are also called Wormhole aliens. The ascended beings from Stargate, They are relatively powerful. How powerful exactly, it's difficult to tell. How powerful one individual would be. However, as a group, they were capable of extinguishing all life from one planet. And the reason I say ascended beings instead of ancients or ascended ancients is because not all ascended beings are necessarily ancients. For example, Daniel Jackson was ascended for a time, and some other regular humans were ascended. For example, the population of Abydos, and they aren't the same as the ancients because the ancients aren't technically don't have the same descent as the humans from the Milky Way galaxy. So they're technically different, although biologically they're essentially the same, and or at least very similar. Of course, the ancients being more farther along. The Midichlorians from Star Wars, a lot of people hate it, but it is canon. The Midichlorians are supposedly tiny life forms inside of everything that gives the Force its power, or at least allows living beings to use the power of the Force. But the full extent of the Force in at least the movies isn't known. However, I know that in the expanded universe there are some big feats, and if anybody has some information on that, I would love to hear it. Anyway, the Golden Tribe from Heroic Age, they don't really have that many big feats, but you might say, well, maybe it's just their technology. But looking at how the things go with the Silver Tribe, how advanced the Silver Tribe is, a lot of that is actually in their biology. So I'm thinking that the Golden Tribe are a bit like that too, where their biology is advanced so that they're probably telepathic and can do a whole bunch of other things. Also, there was the depiction of them standing around the universe, in these robe figures standing around the universe, and I don't know if that is an accurate depiction or of their power, or maybe just a depiction of them looking at the universe, or maybe space is warped in a weird way. But the Midichlorians are pretty powerful. What am I saying? No, the Golden Tribe. I went off topic. I backtracked. Holy cannoli. Really need to stop doing that. The Seraphs from Battlestar Galactica, specifically the 1978 version. I haven't seen the newer one, but the Seraphs, the full extent of the power of the Seraphs, I haven't really seen, but they are capable of performing miracles. They seem like some sort of angelic beings, but they travel through space. It's very difficult to tell how powerful they are, but they're definitely up there. And something that I haven't mentioned, things that I haven't mentioned, that I haven't put on this list for really powerful beings. There was one telepath in Babylon 5 that somehow transcended his physical form and became really powerful. I haven't mentioned that one. Also, the Vorlons and the Shadows, can't really put them up there. They're not that far. But if you have anything else to add to the list, I would love to hear it. If you yourself would like to collab with me, come on this show, talk with me, even if there's nothing else you want to do besides just talk about this science fiction power scaling, I would love to have you. I love to have some expertise other than my own. that would probably balance out and keep me from backtracking, keep me on topic, that is, unlike what happened a few minutes ago. So anyway, thank you all for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed, or hopefully this has at least led you to do your own research, or to more greatly appreciate science fiction, or has at least generated some sort of interest. That would make me glad if that's what happened. But thank you all for watching, and I will be seeing you all next time on Awiltus over and out.